Welcome to a melodic edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good pal, your good buddy Amigo Aaron, joined by a man that sets aside 1 hour a night to rock and roll, and he parties every other day. I give you the BRENT.
Man, I wish I could rock that much. That'd be awesome.
What is your rock schedule these days?
Every fortnight.
Every fortnight there's some rocking.
That's it.
And the partying?
No. We had to change into partying. We had to change into partying so the kids could go to college.
You old. You old. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel. We made the exciting deal. It's another Hermsky joint this week as we take a stab at BAM, games about music and artists, musical artists. No, that's what it is. It's games about music and artists, musical artists. It's both. It's everything. What did you think about this topic when it honed into view?
I really, really wanted to do an artist. Like a
there's not that
painting
many
artist.
Yeah.
No games. None about famous artists. Now there's games about that are based on the artwork of someone.
Yeah.
I could have went down that road. There are games where you do art, you know, Mario paint, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I needed a famous person to have a video game about doing art or having you nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was so sad.
Well,
Tons of things based on, but none actually. Like Bob Ross was supposed to have a game in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
For the Wii and the DS, a few other systems. No, didn't happen. They announced it. They were like, "Woo, we're good, we're ready to go, woo!" And then immediately got canceled.
Yeah. You know, when I picked my game this week,
Much like your nose.
I personally limited myself to non-rhythm games, no pinball machine games, because I knew you'd throw a hissy fit if I picked one. Because really, pinball is where a lot of the good artists have games. You know, there's tons. Kiss and the Rolling Stones and Metallica. There's tons of Elton John. You know, a lot of artists, musical artists, Guns N' Roses have a really cool one with the gun and the rose as the plunger and the thing. There's a lot of good artists that have pinball machines, but I knew you would throw a hissy fit if I did that.
That's right.
And so if you take all that out of the mix and all the sync games where you sing as an artist, because the Sing Star series, they have like games for ABBA and stuff like that.
And you have to take out all the FMV games.
I almost picked one of
Princess
those.
Palace, or
I almost picked
Phil
one of
Collins
those.
has one.
Yeah, because Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch has one, and I almost did CNC Music Factory. I was that close to doing it, but I thought to myself, "There's not much game here. This is more like multimedia experiences." And that's something else that a lot of these musical artists have, are multimedia experiences. I found a game called Laurie Anderson's Puppet Hotel.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know who Laurie Anderson was. She was I don't guess she's still around, but she was a avant-garde rock singer, punk singer that I knew about her from the 80s. But she was real weird, man. And so just the title, Laurie Anderson's Puppet Motel, I'm like, oh, man. And I'll watch some of this. And if there'd been any sort of game in there, I'd have went for it. But it was just bizarre, man. So freaking weird. So I got rid of all that stuff. So what do you got left? All right, well, you've got games where they took like a musical artist and stuck them in there, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what I went with. What was your line of thought on this?
Well, like I said, I really wanted to pick a physical media artist. Couldn't do it. So I was like, okay, let's go back. Let's go way back. Because you picked a more, I don't want to say modern by any stretch of the imagination.
It's 23 years old.
But
so no, it's not modern.
I wanted to pick something more in the retro scheme of things.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a ton back in the 90s era for that sort of thing. So I went with the first thing that crossed my mind that I didn't, that I actually liked the band. And went with that. Now, so it was tough though. It was tough.
Let's talk about musical games that you enjoy.
All right.
Aside from what you picked, what are your favorite games in this area of gaming? The musical, but based on a musical artist.
I mean,
and I also want to pick something. I tried to think of things that were one artist. Like you could say rock band, but I mean, there's like a ton of artists.
You can't do that. Journey, the Journey arcade game.
Yeah.
Which I was very close to picking.
We covered that, I believe.
No, we haven't.
You sure?
Uh-huh.
I thought we covered that on the show one time.
No. And
I would have picked that too. I thought we covered it already.
I mean, and that had some interesting aspects, like the tape drive that plays on a continuous loop, and it kicks in whenever you're playing.
Yeah, that's
that
cool.
sort of stuff.
That was awesome back in the day.
Oh yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
points of digitized graphics.
But I mean, I'm not a huge music fan. Like, I don't just sit around.
Music, don't you?
No. I mean,
it's hard to believe you were in a band.
I love big band type music. I love horns and brass. But I'm not a sit around and listen to music kind of guy. I don't even listen to music while I'm driving in the car, like 80% of the time. Yeah. I enjoy the silence.
Even that's a song.
But even
wait a minute, you just drive around in silence?
Yeah. All the kids hated it.
Is that when you do your deep thinking?
Usually, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It ain't working. Turn on music.
But because of that, I've never had who's my favorite artist? Probably like Weird Al, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I've got some deep connection with any musician out there. So going out and playing a game just based off the musician, no, that ain't for me.
If Weird Al's Pinball Machine had been released already and you had access to it and you'd played it for this show, which you probably would have.
Absolutely, 100%.
I would have never forgiven you because you never let me play pinball machines ever. So there we go.
There you went. You'd be like, holy crap, we've got a nearly $12,000 pinball machine for the show. That's awesome.
Well, there you go. Oh, yeah, if we had. I mean, I didn't know we'd own it. That's a whole different kettle of fish. Listen, I've enjoyed lots of games based on artists, including, you'll recall, I'm a big fan of Def Jam, Fight for New York, which that's all rap and hip-hop guys. Of course, it's a bunch of different guys, but I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Man.
The Aerosmith game is dumb guy fun.
No, it's horrible.
It is, but that's what makes it fun. It's so stupid.
No. There's a difference between campy dumb fun, something like Urban Yeti.
No,
and just bad. And the Aerosmith game is just bad.
Oh, it's dopey bad. I enjoy it. Another thing I want to mention that we were talking about artists in games, because I did try to find, and there are games based on artists. There's like an Amadeus game, I believe, for the C64. There's also that Mark Echo warning contents, like getting up contents under pressure or whatever, where you play the. Mark Echo is the famous designer and I guess spray paint artist. You never heard of him?
No, I've never heard of these games.
Yeah, it was on the, I believe it was on the original PlayStation. It was kind of a big deal. There were commercials for it and stuff. Now, who would you say would be the King Dong of musical video games? I mean, I don't mean the best game, but appearing in the most.
Oh, Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, without a doubt.
We owned Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, the arcade board.
Yeah.
One of my son's favorite games. If for any reason, because he likes those robots that have the thing that shoots up between their legs and hits you, the piston. He thinks that's hilarious. That is a fun game. It's dumb. But Michael Jackson...
It is weird.
Michael Jackson had a game in the Wii called the Michael Jackson Experience.
Yeah.
Which was it was like a rhythm type game. It was still pretty cool because Michael Jackson was in the game, did a lot of footage for it. He's in Ready to Rumble 2, I believe. He's actually in the game.
Right.
Of course, he famously did some tunes from like one of the Sonics, like Sonic number 2. He had some songs in. So I agree with you. I would say he's the number one guy in terms of musical video games, which is all sorts of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But there you go. So, and we could go on and on. But with all that said, we should probably just get right into the action, Brent. Now, you like to think outside the box a lot of times, the Brent, when you pick your games. And we've heard your reasoning for this, but I'm still going to hold you to account later on as you get into your game. What are you playing this week?
The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
What was that?
That's a little opening. Do, 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 do. Remember that?
Yeah. I don't think that's the right key, but sure.
Listen, that's the exact appropriate version for this game. My version.
Yeah, I picked the Blues Brothers. So, real quick. Oh, and I picked it for the Amstrad. The Amstrad. Because this did come out on many, many things, and we'll get into that. Real quick, I just want to touch on who the Blues Brothers were.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we're bringing in a younger audience now, Aaron.
No, we're not.
Oh, okay. Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi formed the Blues Brothers, and of course they did musical skits on Saturday Night Live, but it ended up really taking off. And they were doing venues before Saturday Night Live, but after that they actually started doing tours. And their popularity grew so much, so they had not one, but 2 movies. No. Even after John Belushi died, they just made another one. Screw it. The first movie, holy cow, what a classic. Great movie if you've never seen it.
You got Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles. Freaking, you've got Carrie Fisher's in there. It's got everybody in it, man. Yes. John Candy, one of his very early film stars, was in that.
It was an excellent film. It has, at the time, the largest amount of cars wrecked on screen. I mean, and literally, you could tell they were going for the body count because they just kept driving car after car to their death. It was just ridiculous.
It's this is my Dad turned me on to this movie back when I was a kid. He loved this film. He's like, you got to see this thing when they go to this mall. But it was the most over the top, like that's what I liked about it. Every part of it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
that's what made it great.
And great music.
Oh yeah,
great music.
Cab Calloway's in there singing. You got all the blues guys in there. It was great.
So the band started in '78, right? And the movie came quite a bit later in the what was it, the 80s, Aaron? The late 80s?
No. You know what's the sequel?
No, the first film. Yeah, no. 1980.
Yeah, it wasn't the late 80s. It was early.
So, when do you expect a game, to come out for this? Well, the answer, of course, is 1991.
Yeah, they waited a while to get the license going.
Well, there's a funny thing about that. We'll get into that in just a moment. So, in 1991, this released for MS-DOS, Amiga, C64, and the Atari ST. I didn't mention the Amstrad.
Right.
Well, the Amstrad version released a year later, along with the Game Boy and the NES version.
No kidding.
So you've got.
I can see why.
So you've got a plethora of systems, goes across computers and consoles, and there's gonna be some thievery. There's gonna be some copying when you do that. And most people would say for this game, the standout hit, the best version of it is for the Amiga. Yeah. It's got great graphics. It's got incredible sound.
Yep.
And obviously, if you're going to port from something to another system, that's what you're going to port from.
That's right. The Amiga.
Now, when you boot up the Amstrad version, the very first thing you're going to see, Aaron, if you want to get some footage rolling there for us, is the Amstrad version is very blue.
Yeah, well, it is the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they like that. Ha, ha, ha. No. It is super monochrome. It's amazing that they took a game with all these rich colors and monochromed it for the Amstrad. So I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
I know what I'm thinking.
This came out at the same time as the Game Boy version. They must have just pulled the Game Boy version and you know what the Amstrad version is based off of? The Amiga version. Same level design, same layout. Now, it is a brutally cut down version. You can't go into the storefronts like you could on the Amiga version, but the level design, I'm just talking level design here, is based off the Amiga version.
It's funny because I watched this side by side with the Game Boy. It looks exactly like it, and the guys look the same. The levels look identical to me.
No, they're not.
I don't know about that.
No. Go take an actual look. Look at the Amiga version.
Oh, I've seen it.
And have it playing the same way as this. The level layout is the exact same on the Amiga version as the Amstrad version. Minus, you could go into the different rooms. So, this is a flip screen platformer on the Amstrad. This is the only version that I'm aware of. I didn't take a look at all of them. But this is the only version of the game that is flip screen.
All right.
Now, why did they make this flip screen?
I don't know, because there are plenty of, as we know, there are plenty of Amstrad games that have fine scrolling.
This is late in the Amstrad's lifespan.
Is?
Well, I mean, fairly late.
Something that even makes it less make sense.
So it's not like they didn't have the technology. It's not like they didn't figure this out. There are scrolling games, especially when you consider that although we've blown it up for your viewing pleasure, when you play this on the Amstrad, it is like 1/2 screen size, shrunk down in the middle.
They didn't even bother to put the usual below, like the name of the game or something underneath. They just left it
blank. Just blank. So in this flip screen monochrome platformer, what do? Well, you can choose. You can choose to be either of the Blues Brothers, Jake or Elroy, and
Elwood.
Yeah, sorry, Elroy.
Elroy's on the Jetsons.
And they play the exact same. The sprites are different, but other than that, they don't have any. One doesn't jump higher, one doesn't run faster with boxes, anything like that. They play the exact same. You're just choosing which character you want to be. And your goal, the storyline is that the sheriff knew that you had a concert coming up and stole all your instruments. And instead of just putting them in lockup or something, he hid them throughout the town. So you have to run around these levels and collect all of your instruments so you can play your gig tonight. That's the storyline. And you notice that's nothing like the storyline of the movie.
No.
Right? You know why?
I don't know.
They didn't license the movie.
Okay. Oh, they licensed for like Saturday Night Live?
They licensed the character's likeness.
Okay.
That's it. That's all they had license for. Well, that, of course, the music, because it does play Blues Brothers tunes throughout the thing. But they didn't actually license the movie rights because that would have cost extra. And that's true between all of the platforms. All the platforms, or all the different versions, have the same plot line that you're going around collecting instruments. So a lot of people think this is based off the movie.
Yeah.
It's not. It's based off the band.
Okay.
All right, so there you go.
Yeah.
Next thing of note, you of course you can collect. That it has collectibles you can choose to pick up if you want to. It very standard fare. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The sound on this, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Listen, it's ear. Some of the notes this thing hits. You were making fun of my renditions of some of these songs. I mean, these were ear-piercing notes.
Well,
now, I'm not saying the Amstrad's not known for its like top-shelf tunage.
Correct.
And this is not the worst they ever heard. Not while Manic Miner's walking around, but this was not what I would call. And also, you hear the same tune. Now, I know there are more than one tune, depending on where you get, but like I know I heard the same tune a lot. And I mean,
every level has a new song.
It's funny. It was just good enough to not be terrible, but it was not good enough to not be not very good.
The loops, the worst part of it is the loop is incredibly obvious, and you basically will certainly hear the loop. I think that's the worst part of it for me. But the tunes were recognizable. I mean, if you know the Blues Brothers songs, then you know what's playing whenever it starts playing.
Yeah.
So you've got flip screens. You've got 4-color graphics. I keep saying monochrome, but it's actually 4. You have okay sound, not great. What about control? What about gameplay, hit detection, that kind of stuff?
All right.
The controls are great. I mean, you go left, you hit jump, your guy jumps. It has a small amount of physics that if you're carrying a box, which you use as weapons, you'll actually jump lower. You won't have as high as jump. Hit detection is spot on, which is really bad.
When you're trying to jump as cops, for example.
Because the gameplay is where this thing just dies a death.
Oh, that's where it dies.
Yes, I could actually forgive every other aspect of this game, but the flip screen aspect of it, guards can hang out on the seam of the screen, and the guards have projectiles that they shoot, so you can they could just be poking out just a small touch, and you come up to them and they shoot at you, and you can't do anything about it. Or you'll go from one screen to the next, and there'll be no guard. But as soon as you go into the next screen, there will be a guard. Then you get hit, and you fly back. Then you go back to the other flip screen. Inexcusable. What was your thought on that, Aaron?
Well, I mean, of all the parts of the game that were bad, that's just another part that was bad.
No, it was not bad. It made it unplayable.
Well, there are some games that are flip screen that have that sort of thing going on. It's not like I ever like it, you know. So yes, it's not good.
Well,
but I mean, well, I'll get into the litany of problems this has in a minute. I'll let you keep going.
This is where the game shows that it's an Amiga port due to its enemy placement. They didn't bother to shift where enemies were. They left them in the same spot, which means that's why they're on the seams. That's why they're in, you know, right on the side of the screens, because they're just plopped on where they were before. Horrible game design. Absolutely kills the game.
Or lack of design, or whatever you would call what that is.
The levels are maze-like, and they're boring. It's the same kind of repetitive cityscape pretty much throughout the entire game. The difficulty's off the charts, but not for any of the good reasons. It's always because you're getting cheap hit all over the place. It has some unique things where you can climb on ladders, climb on fences, you can swim in a few areas, but none of it saves the flip screen element and the cheap hits that you get, which makes this game almost unplayable. Also, there are presents, and the presents that you pick up,
explain those.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they never actually do damage to your character, but sometimes you pick them up and they will stun your character, and if anything is on the screen while you're stunned, you're going to take damage, because you're stunned for like 4 seconds.
Like, you need that in the game.
Yeah.
Can you just give us something, game?
So before I get into the nitty-gritty, the final thoughts on this, Aaron, go ahead and give me your thoughts on this game.
We've played a lot of games on this show, and this is the first time I was sitting here. As I sat here and watched this, listening to you talk, I thought to myself, I wonder if this god-awful looking game will affect how many people watch the YouTube video. That's how bad this is. This is migraine-inducing brain goo.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know what this is an abomination. If you're an Amstrad owner, they need to give you a formal apology for releasing this. If you're going to release this game, the box should have been blue. So they could have been like, listen, we know, don't expect color or anything. Oh, where do I start? I mentioned the ear-piercing tunes that happen. Occasionally, they just hit a note. You're just like, oh, God.
Yeah, it has
I've heard good music on the Amstrad. This ain't it. So there's that. The four-color blue. Now, it's the Blues Brothers, so it's sort of funny for about a second.
No, it's not funny at all.
And then it's painful, as I mentioned. This will hurt your brain. Listen, I'm pretty solid when it comes to this. I had trouble sitting there and playing this.
Yeah.
I had to fiddle with the colors so I could make it more palatable. I'm not lying.
No, I've
never done that.
I believe you.
Okay? The maze-like levels are confusing. You're really not sure what's going on.
How far did you make it? Did you get off of level 1?
Yes.
Did you get off level 2?
No.
I didn't get off level 2.
I got off. And by the way, I was thinking to myself the whole time, I'm going to get the BRENT. Because I'd played this on the Amiga before.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan. I love the Blues Brothers, but I'm not the biggest fan of this game anyway. And then when you pick this version, oh, God, why? But I don't know why you hate us. So anyway, yes, all that. Then let's get to the enemy placement you mentioned. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yep.
It's cheap.
Yes.
Jumping over guys, the colors are so bad and everything blends together that it's hard to jump over the bad guys. It's hard to time your box throws, which is dumb, by the way. Just throwing crates at people. Everything moves in a weird, syrupy way. This is like getting high on NyQuil and playing this game. It's what it reminds me. Same kind of blue color. It's like pouring it all over your head, just let it droop down in front of your eyes. The fact that the enemies are where they're at, it shows that the people that made this hate you.
Yeah. Because
they did the bare minimum to get by. The controls are okay. They're okay.
The controls are good.
But I mean, when you're driving your car to a brick wall, do you care that the controls are good?
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
I mean, I think this is one of the worst things we've ever played. That's one of the worst games I've ever played.
Now I'm glad you mentioned that, Aaron. So, I have to ask, have you heard of Amstrad Action, the Amstrad magazine?
Yes.
Very, very long-running Amstrad magazine.
All right.
Can you tell me what you think the Amstrad magazine gave this game?
Well, if it rhymes with blue, I would say give it a 2.
All right. So the Amstrad magazine gave this a 95. That's out of 100.
What?
95 out of 100.
They should be burned. How did they justify that?
So they say graphics 81%.
81?
Great 2-color graphics, neat single screen scrolling, but a little in the way of animation. So their big complaint for this was that the animation was bad.
They're not wrong. The animation's also bad. Everything's got 1 or 2 frames. Did you see the guy going across the fence?
Yeah.
Remember when Mario went across the fence? It looked like a guy climbing a fence. This guy looks like he's just going like this. Boop, 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 boop. There's nothing going on. It's horrible.
Okay, so grab factor.
What's that mean?
94%. A brilliant platformer, a brilliant platform 'em up featuring lots of exploration. It's very easy to get into.
Well, I will say there's a lot of exploration.
So then you have Sonic's sound.
Yeah.
56%.
Well, so they knocked that over graphics.
No, it was lower, way lower. Everybody needs somebody placed continuously and irritatingly throughout.
Yeah.
No spot FX. That's very true, and we didn't mention it. There are no FX sounds. It's only music playing continuously.
You can't have both.
Staying power, 96%. 5 large levels mean you won't finish it in a hurry either.
No.
The difficulty level is spot on.
I'm not sure the game is super hard. That's the thing. It's painful to play.
So, okay.
That magazine sucks.
So, that was issue 79
yeah.
of Amstrad Action.
Okay.
And I have to wonder if there might have been some backdoor shenanigans.
You think?
Because in issue 98,
yeah,
they gave the game away for free as a bundle with their bundle in their magazine. So, I mean, yeah, that's a few months later. I'm not going to deny it's over a year.
You may be onto something there, the Brent.
But
actually, you might have something there.
But they later packed that in with their magazine, and on the front page exclaimed 95% rating winner, the complete 5-level game. Talking about it being bundled in with the magazine.
Have you read anyone else with this theory, or just all
No, this is all me. So you have to wonder how they ended up.
Listen, that's some good detective work. You almost justified this horrible, horrible pick because you're an idiot. That's actually good detective work. You might be onto something because there's a 0% chance you give this a 95.
No, never. Maybe
I don't care if you're like, oh, it's the Amstrad. The Amstrad wasn't crap.
No.
This would have been horrible in the Spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's known for having monochrome games.
Yeah. So, Aaron, would you like to see this game fixed for the Amstrad?
No.
Well, tough, because in the year 2000, they set out to make a color version of this game.
Who did?
The community.
Okay.
So
why?
Don't ask
what
why.
What were they thinking?
No, don't ask why. So they went through and made a full colorized version of this game. All of the sprites have been redone. All of the levels have been redone. They retooled the music. It looks fantastic. It does not. And they also took it from the postage size stamp screen to full screen. It looks lovely. It really does. I've seen it in action. I've seen it on YouTube. They have playable versions of it out there. They've been tweaking it. It's
not released fully yet.
They have playable versions of it out that you can get, and you can go on YouTube and look for the Blues Brothers remake, and
no.
you can find some footage of it.
I won't be doing that.
Of course, when you add in all those colors and it's the Amstrad, you have to sacrifice something, and the game is noticeably slower. One thing you can say about the 1991 version or 92 version is it does the movement. It does have slowdown, but for the most part, the movement's pretty smooth. The remake, that's not quite the case. You can definitely tell that adding in all those colors has hurt it, and making the screen larger has hurt it. But it's still an amazing feature, an amazing thing for the community to do for a game that deserved better on the Amstrad.
You know what? One of the things I can't figure out in any version. Okay, this is based on the Blues Brothers.
Correct.
Okay? The Blues Brothers is known for its over-the-top car chases.
Yes.
Okay? There's no car chases in this at all.
No, it's just platform.
No one knows that. When you think Blues Brothers, do you think of Joliet Jake hanging off a fence? Well, you don't, do you?
Well, I mean, every once in a while,
no, you don't. Or holding a balloon and floating.
Well, you know.
That's stupid.
Oh, okay.
So remaking this game would be a do-over.
Well, I mean, they're keeping the theme of the game,
It's like, I've got the Superman license. I'm going to make Superman license into a falling puzzle game. Falling piece. But that makes sense, right?
Yeah. You match the kryptonite and
listen, this is a dud.
Different shapes.
And Titus, these guys I never liked that outfit.
Oh, they're okay.
You know what? Stinker.
So there you go, Aaron. That is the Blues Brothers on the Amstrad CPC.
Because of you, some poor sucker subjected himself to playing this. We had one review sent in, believe it or not. Poor Pajako. What did he ever do to you?
Let's see if he gave it a
Pajako writes, this is clearly a cut-down port of the original Game Boy version. That's what I thought.
Amiga. It's crazy.
Which explains the minimal color scheme. That's an understatement. Although mostly dark blue on a black background. This is like the whole game is copy protected, so you can't photocopy it, by the way. Anyway, sorry, Pajako. Although mostly dark blue on a black background and only using about 60% of the screen makes this game quite hard on the eyes. No kidding. The player moves and controls well. Collision detection is not perfect, but not awful. This could be a pretty good platformer, but unlike its Game Boy parent, this version does not scroll and it breaks the game.
Yeah.
Not being able to see around easily creates frustrating experiences, and luck rather than skill will be involved when you first play. Moving into a new screen and immediately hit an enemy, or having to make a leap of faith only to miss a platform in the next screen and have to do a portion of the level again was not fun. True.
None of this was fun.
The sad thing is the CPC can do scrolling games. We know. Yeah. Graphics are very blue. The music is okay, but it has a horrible high-pitched whine. Yes. And at the end of the tune before it loops.
Yeah.
A potentially good game that sadly falls short of its potential. 5 out of 10. He was very kind.
Very generous. Very generous.
He was very kind. I want to chastise you before we move on because this was god-awful. I got to ask you, what made you pick the Amstrad version of this? Was it the backstory? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff. And plus, the Amstrad doesn't get nearly enough love, and apparently nearly enough hate.
We've loved on the Amstrad a lot on this show. We played a lot of Amstrad on this show, but you've set the Amstrad back 10 years, and that's saying something. It's horrible. Whoosh, whoosh, bad, Brent, bad.
So what did? Okay. I admit it wasn't the best game.
No, it wasn't. It was horrible.
But what did you bring to the table?
Listen, I brought the heat. When you think of musical acts with a game, it's not the Beatles. Are you kidding me? Those losers. It's not freaking Elton John Pinball Machine, Bam. You know what it is. It's Bam. It's Wu-Tang, brother. Woo! Wu-Tang Clan. And that's what I'll be playing this week. Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, Brent. It's the Wu. Now listen. I told you what my choices were limited to, okay? And so I thought to myself, okay, what games can I pick that I've never played before? Because I want something I never played before.
All right. Okay, that's fair. I did too.
And also I thought to myself, what's better than a game you've never played before? But how about a game from a band you've never listened to before? And lo, it came to pass. It's time for some Wu-Tang. Now, before I get into the game, because this game's got a lot to talk about, let's talk about, I'm going to give you Britt yelled at me before the show. He said, I don't want a 20-minute synopsis of the Wu-Tang Clan. Don't worry. So in case you're not familiar with the Wu-Tang, these guys are a big deal, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They are a hip-hop group out of Staten Island. In 92, the original members got together, and I'm going to try to go through these guys real quick. There's a lot of them. This band is a clan of guys. There's like a ton of guys in it. You got Riza, Giza, Old Dirty B. We'll have to edit that guy's name. It's so dirty. Method Man, the Raekwon, Ghostface Killer. I love that guy. Inspector Deck, You God, and Master Killer. They got 2 killers in there. These guys, and now listen, and I know what you're saying. It's like, oh, come on. But this is early in the game, and this stuff came out, and they came on with their big album, and, like, it was huge. In fact, their very first album, is acclaimed as one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. It was called Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, based on an old kung fu movie that I've actually seen back in the day. So I'm going to give them credit for that because that's awesome. I love the old, I like the old martial arts.
Right.
This thing, it debuted in their, so that album is one of the all-time greats. And their next album debuted in the Billboard Top 200. It was nominated for Best Rap Album of 88 at the Grammys. They released a ton of albums. And one thing you may know about the Wu-Tang, the Brent, is they're the ones, they had a 7th album called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. They only made 1 copy of this thing. And it was bought by that pharmaceutical jerk. Remember that guy?
No.
Who was charged like $18 billion for that drug you need daily. He's like the biggest smirky douchebag jerk. I think he went to the joint. His name was Martin Shkreli. I think his name was Shkreli. Anyway, he was a punk. So you just heard the extent of my knowledge on the band. Now, on the flip side of this, we've got to before we get into this game proper, okay, we've got to talk about the backstory of the game, which I didn't know this game had a backstory until
you didn't watch the story?
No, I don't mean the game's plot. I mean the backstory of the game.
Fair enough.
So this game was developed by an outfit called Paradox Entertainment. Now, there's a wrestling and Amiga connection to this whole game, okay? Paradox did a few games, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, X-Men Academy 1 and 2, Lion King, Simba's Adventure. They did some stuff with the PS2 and Xbox. They did Backyard Wrestling 1 and 2. X-Men Next Dimension, and they also had their name changed at one point. We'll get into that at the Midway Studios, Los Angeles. They did Mortal Kombat, Shaolin Monks, and the TNA wrestling game as well. All right. So there's a reason I bring this up. So flashback to the late 90s. Okay, Paradox is working with Virgin on a game. Okay, and the game they're working on is a game that originally it was going to be a game that was based on this bizarre sport. I think it's like it's African or something. It was almost like a half of a speedball court. It was real strange. But they developed this engine to play this game. And part of the game would be you would whack a guy, whack a sucker, punch him, kick him. Okay. And so they're making this game, and Activision's like, the fighting part looks pretty good. Well, why don't you do more of that? And eventually they just got rid of the sport and then decided to make a fighting game. So I saw a great documentary where they're talking about they want to be different in the fighting genre. So this guy comes into the office with all the writers, and he brings a box. And the box is full of like S&M books and weird, like way out in left field porn. He goes, yeah, we're going to base the game with stuff like this. Distributed on the table. And this is straight from the writers. I'm not making this up. And so they looked at this and like, what are we going to do with this? And so what they ended up making, or attempting to make, was a game called Thrill Kill. You ever heard of that?
Yes, I have.
So Thrill Kill was sort of this infamous game that it was a 4-at-once fighting game, like an arena style fighter, which is super rare at that time. It's maybe one of the very first ones, where you would take these bizarre characters and fight. And the gimmick of the game was if you ever won the ultimate tournament in the backstory, you'd come back to life, sort of like Eternal Champions or something, right? So this game was coming along, and it was looking pretty solid, if not stupid. I've actually played Thrill Kill. I didn't know that this game was based on that until later on. But once I started playing, I'm like, oh yeah, I did some research. So Thrill Kill was bizarre. I mean, it's got there's a little person on stilts in there, and there's a bunch of weird S&M people and contortionists.
Yeah,
and all
it's crazy time.
Anyway, so while they're making this, Virgin goes under, and all the assets. So anyway, all their game gets bought up by EA. Like it's a big wacky thing. And so like, well, what do we do now? And so they're like, yeah, we're not ever releasing this.
Of course,
you're not ever releasing Thrill Kill because it was known as ultra super violent. We're not ever going to release it. So they had to go back to the drawing board. So then they were gonna make a game called Fubar, which was based on the same engine, but they were fishing around, and lo and behold, here comes the Wu-Tang Clan license, and Wu-Tang is hot, so they got together with Activision, and it was go time on what ended up being the Wu-Tang game, Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, which is what we're looking at today. A lot to get to there. So this game was built from the not so different ashes of Thrill Kill. I mean, the engine's practically untouched.
The same, yeah.
This was, again, developed by Paradox and released in '99, only on the PlayStation. This didn't have any other releases. I wanted to get into the people that made it a little bit, and I've got a reason for this. I was looking over who made this, and I recognized a couple guys. The lead programmer was a guy named Peter Jeffries. He did the Amiga game Wild Cup Soccer, which we played on the CD32. He also did a lot of stuff I mentioned. He did the backyard wrestling stuff. He also did Brutal Sports Football, which we liked, on the Amiga. Carl Lewis Challenge on the Amiga. He did 68,000 versions of Pit Fighter. So this guy's got an Amiga background. The co-programmer David Oilman. He wrote a bunch of C64 Amigas that we did. He did Forbidden Fruit on the C64. He did Ashes of the Empire. He designed that on the Amiga. He also did Lords of Midnight and Midwinter, the DOS versions. We played those on the Amigos. So it's kind of neat that these guys were involved. And the other programmer, David Guintu, he worked on Techno Super Hockey on the Genesis. I don't know if you ever played that. And he also worked on the TNA game, Backyard Wrestling. A lot of these guys worked on all the Backyard Wrestling games, all the X-Men Mutant Academy games, and the Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks game. So this is the team that you've got making up the Wu-Tang game. Now, let's get into the game proper, Brent, because this game, I will say, was something different. That's for sure. So, Wu-Tang is a game where it's basically a four-player simultaneous fighting game. Okay, in an arena fighting game.
Right.
And you're thinking to yourself, how did they take this hip hop band and make a game out of that? Well, if you know anything about the Wu-Tang Clan, their mystique and their the way they do stuff is all entrenched in the old sort of kung fu chop suey films of the 70s, Shaw Brothers and stuff. And so what they've done is they've taken those characters that are them, and they've sort of martial arts them up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go on record right now, because I don't want to hurt anybody that loves the Wu-Tang, all right? And this is no bad-mouthing them as artists, right? But this is, without a doubt, one of the most self-serving games I have ever seen in my life. It is, when you, like right now, if you're watching at home, we're in the story mode screen. This is where you pick a character. They have 3 screens of text describing their backstories and about their solo albums and all the people they worked with. I mean, if you're a Wu-Tang Clan fan and you're really into the people in the band, like, I guess this is really awesome. But it's so arrogant sound. It just seems so arrogant. And there are little symbols strode everywhere. It's like the bat symbol. It's everywhere in the game.
It is.
So I hope you like the Wu-Tang symbol, because you're going to see it a lot. You get a goodly amount of guys to start off with. You get like 8 guys start off with.
Yeah,
and you can get a couple more as you go. The story of this game, and I will say, I got a good chunk of the way through it. But I didn't watch the very end because I wanted to save it, believe it or not. So
I'm going to spoil it for you.
Picture 1990, the late 90s, 1999, 1990. This game comes into view, and think about the way computer graphics were rendered back in this. When they used to do the cutscenes.
Yes.
This would still not be that great.
No,
it's not that good.
It was bad even for the time.
Yeah, I would say
there's no doubt,
because there's a cutscene at the beginning of this the story mode. Of course, you only got a few modes. Okay, you've got fighting story mode. You've got basically a 1-on-1 mode where or 4-on-4 versus.
Yeah, versus mode.
versus mode. Oh, let's do the other modes first. I'll come back to story mode. Versus mode, you can have one player through 4 players, any combination of 1 to 4, and you can add computer players to people that aren't there. So you can play 3 on, and they all fight each other. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It works just like you said. It's nothing spectacular. There's no tournament mode. Then there's practice mode, and practice mode you just pick a guy and it will help you learn the moves of the different characters. And I will say, the moves list in this is, I don't think I've ever seen a game that had this many moves in my life, and that's a shoot. And I played a lot of fighting games. The list of moves for these guys, it's like 25, 30 moves. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, and they're kind of samey.
Well, there are here's a move, like double jab. That's a move. But I mean, still, it's a combo. It's in there. So, and then you've got an option screen that lets you save and load and adjust the screen and stuff like that. I didn't see a difficulty level change either.
No,
so I don't think there's one. So, in story mode, I guess the Wu-Tang Clan in the story are sort of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in a lot of ways. You could have put the turtles in here. Am I lying?
Because no, you're not.
In the game, the Wu-Tang Clan all live together at this house, I guess. And their master's this old Chinese guy, all right? So, at the very, very beginning, you see this evil Chinese guy. He's like, he's got this army of martial artists practicing out in this field, you know? He's like Dr. Klon. He's like, listen, he goes, we need the secret to take over the world. We're going to have to get the secret of the Wu-Tang fighting style. It's the best one. He goes, we're going to go get their master and we're going to beat it out of him. And the guys are like, okay. And so I guess they get on a plane or whatever. They fly over to Staten Island. And the Wu-Tang master is in there. And there's a scene at the very beginning where the Wu-Tang master comes rolling in, and a guy attacks him, and he takes this guy and beats the crap out of him.
Okay.
It's one of the. Well, I'm going on. It's one of the Wu-Tang members.
There you go.
Right, I'm not done. And so he's like, yeah, you can't be. He goes, the secret of not being sneak attacked is to not be sneak attacked. It's a real dumb phrase. Yeah. So 2 seconds later, that guy leaves, and then the guy is sneak attacked and beaten down, which is great. It was like 2 seconds later, he gets pounded by these guys. They kidnap the master. So the game revolves around going to go get your master, okay, in a weird roundabout way.
No, that's exactly what the game
is.
But
I mean, it's not like they make a beeline to the master. They're screwing around town. Like, they screw around Staten Island, then they go to the docks. So once that's out of the way, you've got your fighter, and this was interesting. This reminded me a lot of the Kasumi Ninja on the Jag, because you don't just go into a fight. You have to. It starts you in this like room, and you have to walk to the fight. Okay, you have to run down an alley or something to go to these fights. That's the way Kasumi Ninja was. And so as you go down these alleys, it'll say like, okay, you're down Scumbag Alley, like so and so's waiting for you, and you go in there and you fight him in this arena style combat. Sometimes it's 1 guy, 2 guys, or 3 guys. It's not always 4 guys. As you fight these guys, you're using your 4 PlayStation face buttons, and you also got your 2 upper buttons that do a duck and a block. Okay, it uses combinations of all these to perform moves. The move might be forward XX or X and Y or X and triangle or square and triangle, and they will do different maneuvers, including throws and whatnot. And the different members of the group have different. Some of them have different weapons. Like dirty old B doesn't have any weapon. He just uses his hands. He's like a drunken guy. I used Ryza the most with the swords because I liked him. I believe Method Man has a hammer. You know, like a sledgehammer you can use. So you go into these combats, you've got your weapon, and you fight whoever you're supposed to fight. There's the health bar, the whole 9 hours. Now, the weird thing about this game, amongst the weird things, let's say you go into the alley and you beat up some ninjas, okay?
All right.
They're coming back. Because once you kill guys, they just beam back into combat a few seconds later.
They have a life system, yeah.
Well, no, I don't like that. Well, I thought that was weird. You would kill your arch nemesis, he just comes back. You don't kill him. It would just beam back in. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know why they should give him a longer life bar. I don't know why he had to do that. Have you ever seen a game that did that?
No.
A fighting game?
No.
So why would you do it?
It is odd.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's because in this game, you can get people into combos and literally juggle them for 14, 15, 18, 20 hits. And if someone just had a long life bar, you could literally just juggle them to death, and that'd be the end of it. At least when they have a life, they die, they respawn in the middle of the arena or somewhere else in the arena, and you have to at least maneuver to get them back into a corner to do a super combo.
Well, I thought it was dumb.
I'm not saying it wasn't dumb.
All right,
I'm just telling you why they did it.
Because we've played a lot of fighting games, and the thing that where you would knock an enemy out, and he would lay down and die, disappear, and then that exact same guy would pop back up, and he could still kill you. It was dumb.
Well, now, this was more of a final fight game than a fighting game.
Well, I don't agree with that. So, as you make your way through the game, when you feel like you'll go down path A, okay, and then when you come back, and once you beat that path, that area, which is literally like it's like you walk down one alley, there's the area, okay? Then it brings you back to the middle again. And then that area is closed off, you've beat it already. Then you can go to the next area. You'll go through these areas, and ultimately you'll end up with like an end guy at the end that you've got to fight. But I will give the game credit for several things, actually. For 1999, this 4-player fight engine is pretty tight. I mean, for a fun romp. Like, if you're expecting Street Fighter 2 smoothness, it's not. If you're expecting 4-player chaos, and probably one of your friends who knows enough of the moves to be a lot more dangerous, that's sort of what this is. But it's not bad. It's smooth. The characters look pretty. I thought they looked pretty good for the most part. They really worked up the Asian angle on it with like some of the bad guys. Or some of the exploitation movies of the 60s and 70s. Like Foxy Brown type stuff in there. I like that aspect of it. The sound was good. The guys talked. I will say I thought that from what I read, this game has 3 like exclusive Wu-Tang songs that are in it. I got sick of the songs.
Yeah, because I think 3 is all they had because it repeats
it repeated a lot.
Yeah.
So you are. You're in an arena. You're fighting 3 other guys. There's music going. There's sound effects. You're doing all this stuff. It's not bad. The actual combat and stuff's not bad. I played a bunch of the different Wu-Tang members. They play a lot differently.
Yeah,
like if you're
they're
playing,
very unique.
If you play the unarmed guy, Dirty Old B, he's fast. He does that wacky drunken style, and I mean they programmed that, baked it right in. If you play Method Man with the hammer, like the hammer feels heavy because when he swings it takes him a second to draw it back up.
Yeah, I agree. That's very good.
You have to plan how you're going to rise up with a sword. He's cool. He does lots of nice sword strike stuff, and if you get good at his moves, you can really cause some trouble. There's also throws in the game, and you can tell these guys worked on wrestling games because there's some straight up wrestling in this game, including Goldberg's finishers in the game. There's backbreakers and all kinds of wrestling related stuff. So clearly these guys had done some wrestling games in the past. The various arenas and stages they're okay. They have to be made in a certain way, so there's not like you're not going to see things that will blow you away. I thought starting like the way the rounds start, you're right on top of the guys, and so that's annoying. And also when they come back into combat, they can beam and be attacking you before they're even beamed back in.
Yes.
So I got some Blues Brothers flashbacks, and they would come back in. That's another reason I don't like that because there's if you're fighting 1 or 2 guys and you kill them both. You just got to sit there like a doofus waiting for them to beam back in. They're coming because the game's not over.
Yeah.
So the combat's still pretty good. And then, of course, this is the late 90s, so what do you also have? You got to have finishing moves. Each guy in the game has several finishes. You can pick them up along the way. For example, Rise's finisher that I had early is once he finishes the guy off, and the screen goes like, darn, and it plays this sinister music, and then he would throw up a sword up in the air, and he would spin kick the sword and push it through a guy's head and staple him to the back wall. I watched all the finishers. There were pretty good ones in there. A lot of them just involved body parts flying open. You could tell this came from Thrill Kill because even when you don't kill a guy permanently, like his arms and legs will fly off.
Yeah.
It's almost comical in a way. But as you go through the game, I'm not gonna say it's lighthearted, but it's not like super serious. And then I get to this cutscene, once they've captured the master, where they literally skin him alive on the cutscene. I was like, oh god, it was horrific. horrific cutscene. So it's not all. I probably wouldn't let the kids play this one. You know.
Oh, well, it's not like they'd ever get there.
There's another system I got to talk on here as I close this up, which is the 36 chamber system. This is actually pretty cool because what it is basically it's like an achievement system that's built into the game. Each of the characters has a certain amount of special acts they have to perform, and when they perform the act, they'll fill in a dot on this chamber screen. And it can be like doing a certain amount of combos, get to a certain point, pulling off a certain act will get you a dot on the chamber screen, and then when you get all the dots on, you end up getting to fight the main guy. You have to go through the game with everybody, fill up all the dots, and then at the end you can fight the main villain, which I didn't get to do, obviously, because that would take forever. But I mean, I thought that was kind of a neat element to the game. Before I get into reviews and stuff, Brent, I mean, I think that's a pretty good overview of the game. What did you think of this bad boy?
That describes this game pretty well. Because there are aspects of this game that were decently fun. One-on-one combat is where this actually shines, in my opinion. Whenever you have, let's talk gameplay, Aaron.
Yeah.
Whenever you have more than one other opponent, targeting is a nightmare.
There is no individual target.
There is no. They should have used the shoulder buttons to cycle targets.
Which is, if you've played it, like a lot of wrestling games will do this.
Yes.
That have multiple people in the ring. That would have been a help, because it's funny. It doesn't come up as much as it does in a wrestling game. But because most of the time you're just hitting anything that moves. You know what I mean? You're not trying to.
Well,
but I mean, it doesn't give you the option of doing that. I agree with you on that.
The camera swivels in this weird way. When you've just got one other opponent on the screen, it keeps it kind of like a Street Fighter 2D perspective, which is nice.
Yeah.
But when you have more than two characters on the screen, it tries to incorporate everyone, but it won't center on your character. It won't pivot on your character. It pivots in the middle of the action, which gives you all these crazy, weird camera angles that don't make any sense. The nice thing is all the special moves are, up, down, or left, right, and it doesn't matter. You're not worried about moving so much, because the special moves, when you're doing movement actions on the control pad, your character doesn't move.
The special moves are sort of like what you would see in, say, Tekken, more than
yes.
I mean, that's, what I'm saying, like back forward and hold X, or back forward and hit X, or triangle and square at the same time to do a hold. They're very, and this game doesn't feel like Tekken, by the way.
No.
I will say, moving back and forth into the plane, I thought this, because there is no jumping per se.
There is no jumping.
And so, but that's actually a good thing, because in those games, jumping stings.
Yeah.
And not having jumping, but having you move back and forth with that actually works quite nicely.
Well,
it doesn't feel like a ballerina Toshinden or something where it's real floaty or weird.
No.
This is more, I like the way they handle it, and the camera didn't bother me as much as
the camera really bothered me with more than one piece. But, so when you're doing up and down movements, right? You're just up, down real quick.
Yeah.
Your character doesn't move. To move your character in a direction, there's just a slight enough pause between when you hit the direction and you start moving, that if you're trying to do moves, you can do moves without your character wiggling around the screen. Like the character I used, nicknamed the Genius. I can't remember which one it is. The guy with the whip. Whip glaive.
Yeah, that's cool, by the way. I like that guy, too.
You can do 360s on the control pad to do one of his moves.
Yeah.
And your character it doesn't jump around. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. I know I noticed that, too. You don't look like an idiot when you miss a move. It just doesn't do it. Yeah.
The difficulty of this game is stupid.
You think it's too hard or too easy?
The very first screen that it drops you in, it's you versus 3 other people, and you get absolutely slaughtered. Now,
No.
Yes.
I got past that easily.
No.
Immediately.
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, you get past it, but you don't get past it because you're good or because it's fair. You get past it because it gives you like 6 lives. So you can die over and over and over, and you only have to kill them once. So that the difficulty is totally based off of how many lives you have versus how many lives your opponent has, which is crap. How far did you get in this, Aaron? I got all the way to China.
Yeah, I got to China.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's a mission in China.
The very first mission, you can't get past.
There's a guy that's like really tough, and you had 3 of your guys against him.
Yeah.
He's tough. Yeah. I got past him, and I got crushed for the next batch.
Yeah, the difficulty, it's all over the map. Sometimes the game is super easy, and when you're fighting just one-on-one, like I've said a million times, it's enjoyable and fun. But when you're playing you versus 3 other characters, it's crap. It's no fun because you are so busy fighting the controls and the camera, and you blocking in this game does not matter. If you block, they just hit where you're not blocking. Yeah,
the AI is good at getting you when you're blocking. I didn't block that much.
Or just throwing you. But it does do a lot of unique things with the concept. For an example, it has one where it's not about you winning, it's about you surviving for 2 minutes. And the storyline is your buddies are trying to get to the plane and you're trying to distract the enemy. It has a couple levels where you have a person on your team, but he's down. He can't help, and you have to make sure the other 2 characters you're fighting
don't kill him.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So it does fun things with the concept.
Yeah. I thought that was clever. And I didn't expect it either. I mean,
no, I didn't either.
So they took what they had and they did some variations on it.
Yes.
Which were welcome.
Yes.
It makes it a little bit different when you're just trying to survive.
Absolutely. You know? And the game's not garbage.
No.
Okay? The absolute brain dead thing about this game, though, is the HUD system. Having to walk down an alley and then and it gives you like a cut scene of what the story thing is, and then pulling you back to the same alley you just left. Then you have to find what door you haven't went through, and then walk down there. It does tell you, but it's dumb.
Well, it should have something where you don't even walk, because you have to walk right up to where you're going before it says anything, and so you're walking around like an idiot.
No, this is what it should have done. Instead of kept pulling you back to a hub world, it should just be a linear path because it doesn't matter.
Well, I mentioned that they did the same thing in Kasumi Ninja and there's a reason for that, because of the era. Because the 3D was just coming in, and this was seen as something that was interesting. They added a little bit of realism or depth to it. Despite now, we would just rather get on with it.
Yes.
So, I mean, that didn't age. That part didn't age well. I'll admit that. I didn't like that either.
Also, the arenas are too small. Too small. I looked up, Aaron, while you were talking.
Yeah.
When did Power Stone come out for the Dreamcast?
That was the Dreamcast. That would have been
1999.
Oh, okay.
Same time as this.
I knew it was close.
And it had these huge, expansive arenas. Now, you might say, well Brent, that was only 2 player.
Yeah.
Well, Power Stone 2 came out beginning of 2000, had 4 players, had these huge arenas, had much more detailed graphics. If you're going to play an arena-style combat game, unless you were drawn to the Wu-Tang branding, just go play Power Stone.
I like this way more than Power Stone.
Oh, you're insane.
Because there's a reason. This is a fighting game. Like Power Stone is more like Smash Bros.
No, it's not.
That's not really a fighting game.
Oh man,
that's an arena combat game. I'm not going to get into a Power Stone debate with you. This is more my style of game. Here's the way I look at this, bro. An opening volley. All right, this is a very close hit. It's not a home run. It's not a home run, but what I'm saying is this is a game where they got a lot of stuff right. The arenas aren't huge, but I mean they're working.
They're minuscule.
They're not. They're not all that small. Yeah, I never felt like I was totally enclosed unless it was meant to be like that.
Dude, the ninja thing. How many times did you have to fight the ninjas?
Twice.
I had to fight them many more times.
Well, I got good at playing Rise. Real good. I was doing real well. And something else that you mentioned. I mean, listen, as the game goes on, they expect you to learn how to play the game. This thing's got 20, 30 moves you can memorize.
Right, but that has the ninjas you kill in one shot.
Well,
so
I know
none of that matters.
No, but it does matter because it's placement. I didn't think the ninjas were learning the level. Anyway, with all that said,
okay. Final thoughts on this.
Yeah.
This is not a bad game. I don't think it's a good game. I'm not going to come back to this. I got way more frustration from it than I did enjoyment. I think the fatalities, which you have to put a code in to even get, they're fun the first couple times, but you're going to find yourself skipping them. They're automatic, so it's not unlike, say, Mortal Kombat, where you might do something really cool and then you feel rushed to get over there and do the movement to get in the fatality. It's not like that. You get a fatality every single time you win the match, which to me takes away kind of the enjoyment of what a fatality is meant to be. The voice acting is in this from the Wu-Tang Clan.
They phoned it in.
Some of the worst I've ever heard.
I forgot to mention that. It's so bad.
Oh my god.
They're unmotivated as hell doing this thing.
Yeah.
For your own game, you think you get more. And by the way, the non-Wu-Tang stinks too.
But
they all stink.
The non-Wu-Tang are marketably better.
Well, I'm just saying, it's none of it's any good.
One of the first scenes, he's like, "Oh man, I'm not good enough."
Yeah.
And the master's like, "Oh, you need to practice more." And he's like,
"It's so generic." Yeah.
Okay. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?"
Yeah, it's bad.
That is so bad it's funny.
Yeah, it is. They're really bad. I agree with that.
Am I telling people not to play this? No. I would. This isn't gonna be something I come back to. If you are interested in Wu-Tang, if you're interested in arena combat, to me this is more of a final fight or a pit fighter. Pit fighter is exactly what I would compare this to. This is a better playing pit fighter.
It's like a 3D pit fighter. Yeah. Except that it's the same concept. I wish some of the aspects of pit fighter were in this. Like, I'm seriously like getting the stuff from the crowd. And it's funny. This game is sort of like the predecessor to something like a Vendetta or a Def Jam Fight for New York, which are vastly superior
Super superior.
And they do what we just said. Yeah. They basically took Pit Fighter and this and made them into a better game. Yeah. So, if you're going to play a game like this, that's the one to play. But this, I have to say, this was better than I thought it would be. I was dreading it after that opening.
Yes. Yeah. I was very cringed for the first 5 minutes. But after the game actually started, and after I got past that first ridiculous match, I had fun for a while, and then I got really frustrated.
And I think this will be a blast with 4 people. I really do. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I think the skill levels between the 2 people, if you had 2 equally matched people, sure, but if someone was better than another person, they're going to clean house.
Well, I appreciate the amount of depth that the fighters have. I will say that.
Yeah, it had a lot of characters.
You could learn your character real well and look real cool if you wanted to. I want to mention before I get into the reviews that there was a special controller issued for this game. The Wu-Tang W controller, not George Bush. The W controller looked like the Wu-Tang symbol. It looks like a horrible controller, but it's out there. I'll price it here in a minute for your amusement. The critics on this were sort of all over the map. Absolute Places gave this a 90. GameZilla gave it an 89. Adrenaline Vault gave it an 80. IGN an 80. Cyber Games a 69. Game Revolution 67. CBG gave it a 40. They crushed it. So, but overall, it apparently did well. It was well received by critics. We got a review here from our good buddy Pajako, who writes, Wu-Tang, a fighter that seems to get a lot of stick for being bad. I'm not mass winning my fighters, so I don't know if it was just that bad or the game was quite tough. From the second character onwards, I was getting my butt handed to me most of the time. I resulted to cheesing it with timed hold and throw moves. Each character has a fairly extensive move list, which is difficult to remember, so most of my fights became button bash fests. For a PS1 game, I thought it was okay, nothing to write home though. In an age where I can play almost anything that isn't, this isn't one I'd go to first for my fighting fix, but one-on-one with a friend, I'd play it 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair thing. I thought the game was a lot. I didn't think it was that super tough. It's just a matter of, it's a game with practice on it. I practiced on it during the week, and I got better towards the end of the week. Simple.
That's fair.
Let's go into the eBay on this. I looked this up.
The Wu-Tang controller, before you get into the game itself.
I got the controller right here.
I've got more modern, updated numbers.
No, you don't. Go ahead. Since you jumped me, what do you got? Yeah.
The Wu-Tang controller in January of 23 sold for $60, and in February 22, February 22nd, it sold for $300.
Yeah.
All over the map.
Well, the $300 one was sealed in a little bag.
Yeah.
So that you got that going for it. The game, complete in box, it's going pretty expensive. I saw many of these going between $50 and $80.
No.
The disc by itself, I saw sell for $40.
Whoa!
So, yeah, I know. I was pretty surprised as well. Overall, a fun game. I really do. I recommend trying this out. I think it might be fun. I might bring this to Boat Fest just so we can play some 4-player action. Because this is one game where you get some 4 players that have never played it before and probably still have a good, amusing time. You know what else is an amusing time, the Brent?
That?
It's the wheel.
Oh!
Let's hit it.
It is wheel time,
It's wheel time, man. Let's keep this ball rolling. So what do we add this week to Brent?
This week in the Retro Rewind split, we have Super Text Boy's suggestion of illegally published games. That's a fairly recent one. Might come back up.
Okay.
And in the new slot, we have ARG-themed fan games.
Yeah.
These are games that the community, the ARG community, has put together. And
it's a gimmick.
And
we like it.
And we're going to highlight them when that comes up.
Yeah,
Not if it comes up, when
choice.
it comes up. So,
what are you rooting for this week?
Burger Games. You know I love it. Are you ready,
I'm
Aaron?
ready.
Watch this action.
Yeah. Yeah, nice work. What a goof. And the winner is... What is the winner, Brent? Can you tell us now? And it is...
Games that you have come around on by John Vodakar-Shaolin.
Games you come around on, Brent.
So these are games that you didn't like at first, but when you came back to them at a later date, you were like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, wow, that's gonna be tough to determine. I don't, because I never really changed my mind on hardly anything.
Yeah, you are pretty stubborn.
I'll have to think about that because that's gonna be tough. And God knows what system they'll be on. I have no idea. So
it's a very broad. That's a very broad and open topic.
That's a typical boat comment right there. Listen, we appreciate everybody turning out today. We had a good crowd in the chat here. Hope you all enjoyed our look at these music-based games. I mean, the Blues Brothers, man, no one's enjoying that. God, oh yeah, well done. At least, hey, listen, you pulled a nugget of gold out of that manure pile there at the end. Brittany, anything you want to float across the board here before we take things to the house?
Boat Fest. Coming up soon. Get your tickets. They are going to sell out.
Yeah. I don't know how many they got left. They can't have that many.
If you have any intention on going, you need to get a ticket as soon as possible. We want you to be here, and we have to restrict ticket sales due to fire marshal stuff. So it's not going to be like, we'll let in 10 more people. No, it's a hard-nosed, hard line.
I might let you into the back door. Listen, go to boatfest.info for all your Boat Fest needs. Listen, this thing's going down Friday, June 24th, 2022, starting at 4. Saturday, we're going to pick it up June 25th. I think Boat said we're going to start that at 9 in the morning on Saturday. We'll run this thing all day. 2-day event. We would love for you to come down to visit us. And a lot of our buddies, online buddies, Discord buddies are going to be around.
Yeah.
So it should be a lot of fun.
It should be a happening.
Yeah, and I'm bringing, listen, at the bare minimum, let's say it's a complete disaster. It's held in an old basement, which it's not, right? At the bare minimum, I'm unloading the vault. All my gaming stuff will be there. I'm bringing the virtual pinball machine. I'm bringing it all. You can go there and just play games and you have a good time. Get you a drink, have a good time, get you some soda pop, whatever your choice is. Get you some chips, sit down and play some Vectrix. Play some pinball. It'll be a lot of fun. And then, by the way, there'll be live shows. There'll be contests. There'll be video game contests. There'll be karaoke. There'll be all kinds of stuff. There's going to be a swap meet. It should be awesome, Brent. I'm looking forward to it.
Should be something.
I think that's all we've got this week, Brent. So we will have it. Now, I think next week the time changes, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll still be on at 10 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time. The problem will be, it'll actually be an hour earlier for us because we're getting hosed. That's one thing I hate about that is that that's when you lose an hour. Brett's checking right now to make sure. It is next weekend. So that means for you people that aren't in the USA, we will be on, what'll that be, an hour earlier? An hour earlier. So there you go. Yeah, I know. Well, maybe it'll be convenient for somebody. So that's it next week. Let's take this thing to the house, Brent. Until next time. Adios.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. Special thanks to Duncan Styles for our vector style graphic and Bartbit for our amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARGpresents, just like these fine folks. Mario Ramey, Z9K9, Jerry Dennington, John Dykeman, Retroalgy, Air Shack, Texas Foosballer, Sundown, Oram, Super Tech Boy, David Terrence, Mr. B, Roushie, Graham W. Vetke, Dave Velociraptor, Bernhard Lucas, Steve Rasmussen, Anthony Jarvis, Bitter Blitter, Pajaco 6502, Kevin Bean, Andy Jones, Andy Craig, Rob Black O'Hara, Jason Warrens, Mitsuyama, Chris Foles, Frodo NL, The Slow Norris, John Schaller, The On Collective, Gary Heather, Terry Howard, Olaf Hope, and Rollo. You can join us live every Sunday, 10 a.m. EDT on Twitch. Hope to see you there.